Welcome back, boys and girls, to yet again another video. Here today, what we're going to talk about is actually some more roster mania, some post-season 3 playoffs, some pre-worlds. Roster mania, is it done yet? No, it's not even close to being over yet. I have a major list that I'm looking at. A lot of it's not major, but we do have some major stuff to talk about, some interesting things that have been going down behind the scenes. And before anyone even puts this out, yes, this shirt is a little bit big on me, so it looks like I'm going to bed. I'm gonna go change. Hold on, I'm gonna go change. This is not. No, we're not. A little bit better. It's a little bit better, but it's not perfect. But it'll work for now. Yes. All I own is UNG apparel. That's the only thing that I actually own in my closet. First of all, before we get into this in today's video, I don't want to make this super long, but I want to thank you guys so much for the support on our last video. We had like over 2.5k views. What did I say? Like 2,500 views. Gained a lot of subscribers. A lot of people were very complimentary, really into the video. So I really do appreciate that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one just as much. But I just want to say thank you guys so much for that support. It really does mean a lot to me. So the first bit of news we have is coming from Dream Team, aka DT. They are our team of 4, but one of their players has recently announced that they are going to be a free agent for Worlds, which is Anticity. Now, people probably don't really recognize Anticity's name unless you've kind of heard on him for teams like AR in the past. He's been on other teams as well, but this time he is deciding, you know what, I'm not happy with my squad. He says, you know what, I think I can do better things. I'm gonna go to Worlds. Gonna be a free agent, so someone pick me up, please, because I need a team. I need a team for Worlds. Diabolic, Cinder, and Watson are still on that team. We'll be looking for one pretty talented team. I think they can definitely maybe do something at Worlds, but they're gonna have to find a solid fourth. And with all the free agents that have been released today and yesterday, there's a good amount of options for them to choose from. So next bit, really quickly, before we get into like kind of the major stuff, Lethal Gaming, for those who don't know, that was one of the teams who came from the open bracket at DC, a pretty good roster. Met the owner, he seems like a really cool guy, but they announced their new full roster, which is actually consisting of some pretty talented players. This roster is going to be consisting of Holler, Ruiz, Cade, and Proto. Proto and Holler previously on Vex. In a longer video I made talking about Vex, I thought that those two were leaving. Turns out I was correct, so there we go. And the other two players were actually coming from TT, or Tactical Turtles, which is the best team name of all time. I don't care what anyone says. You could say Final Boss. I'm going with Tactical Turtles. Can't beat it. Just plain and simple, you cannot beat Tactical Turtles. So either way, Vex, or like half of Vex and half of TT, kind of combining in this squad. A pretty talented team. I think Lethal Gaming is going to have a pretty good roster, so shout out to Lethal Gaming. They've been a pretty good team in the past, and I think with this roster they can do even bigger things. Next thing, which I kind of talked about in my last video, it actually has to do with XGN. Study has left them and is going to be a free agent. Is this really a surprise? No, it's not a surprise at all. For the fact that it's like, we have our players, we have these players, like Lacefield announced free agency. It's like, where's Fizzer, where's Killa at? Like, we have no idea. Like, I hate to say that, but it was kind of expected that XGN would kind of split up. I think at DC, XGN actually beat Owen. I could be wrong about that, but they had potential. I just knew it wasn't going to work. And Study kind of said, I'm a free agent looking for a team for Worlds. He could also find his spot on some of these teams who are looking for one, even looking for two, which we'll get into. So along with Study, we have some TCM news, because basically everyone on the team except for one player has announced free agency. And there's a reason because of this. People are just saying, oh, they just left, which wasn't really the case. Someone actually kind of told them to leave, if that makes sense. So I'm not trying to like be rude here, but someone did kind of tell them, hey, I'm going to try to like start something new, which was Jerd. Jerd has said, well, he didn't really tweet this out, but from what I heard in Teep Stream and from what I've been asking players about, they said that Jerd kind of wants to form a new squad. He wasn't happy with the direction of how the team was going. So in case, Fears is now a free agent, Teep is now a free agent, and Aches is a free agent as well. All those three players kind of tweeted out around the same time saying that we are free agents, and whatnot. So with that, it will be Jerd looking for a team of 3 for Worlds. Not sure it's going to work out. People are saying he's going to go back to Europe to grab some players. Wouldn't be a bad idea, but it is going to be kind of difficult with the fact of Worlds being in a couple weeks, so it will be difficult, but it is possible. Jerd, the man, could find a team of 3, or at least find 3 other players to join on his squad as well. So with that, TCM looking for 3 players. Jerd kind of just saying, this team isn't working, which I agree with, to be honest. Like, kind of getting into my opinion, completely agree with this decision. I like Teep, Aches, and how Fears was doing on the roster, but it just didn't seem to click with me. Ever since Teep and Aches joined the team, I just didn't really feel good about it. I guess I was happy about this team kind of forming, but I knew it wasn't gonna, necessarily leads to good results, I guess you could say. You know, TPNX had kind of struggled on their own teams in the past, and it just didn't seem to really be working out in their favor. A couple other things which aren't really major, but they are, you know, still interesting. Baker released from Stunner. Ares has been dropped from 3s up. And Orbit actually has released Accuracy. Now, the one that I'm going to talk about is probably the one about Orbit. For those who probably know, Orbit, I believe, finished like one of the bottom spots. I think they only won like one map of the entire Pro League for Season 3 as well. They didn't really finish at all well at Season 3 playoffs. They decided to release Accuracy, who I honestly thought is a very talented player. I think Accuracy is very, very talented. He is kind of an objective-minded player. But he's also very capable at slaying. Like, he's very good with the Bally. He can also run an SMG too. So, not really sure about the decision to drop Accuracy. I don't know whose decision this was, but, you know, for right now, it's like, what? Facento happy and TCM looking for one. So, gotta say, I was a little bit surprised from that. Not really sure about what's going on with Stunner. There's been rumors that Fears is joining Stunner, who we just talked about from TCM, so that could also be an option. And Ares dropped from 3s up, so those, you know, the team of 3s up looking for one also. So there's been a lot of like major stuff that people have kind of not looked at because of the fact that they're not major teams, but it's still major news because these guys are very talented players. So with that, a lot of stuff, but now we're going to talk about one team who actually released their entire roster. Okay, so for those who remember, Most Wanted from Call of Duty Ghosts, they actually made a return not too long ago, and before they go to their first event, they've already released their team. Yeah, it's kind of, it's questionable, but I do agree with this decision. No offense to the guys in Most Wanted, but Cells, Gunjar, Ivy, and Pac-Man are all free agents. You know, they were on Most Wanted, which I was kind of happy to see Most Wanted come back. For those who don't know, like the old Most Wanted squad with like Spacely, Slacked, and those guys, very talented team. Really liked the squad, but they decided to kind of, you know, drift away after a little bit of turmoil between the team owners and whatnot. They returned back for Advanced Warfare for like, I want to say like a couple weeks, and then they kind of dropped their roster saying, we're looking for a team for Worlds. So with that, Most Wanted also kind of throwing their name out there along with like teams like Prophecy saying, we have a full roster, we're fully funded going to this event. Any players, let us know. You know, we're fully qualified to take you guys to Worlds. So with that, Cells, Gunjar, Ivy, and Pac-Man, all free agents, and the story just continues on. So before we get into like the major ending to all of this roster mania so far, there is a couple things that I want to point out. So there were a couple of announcements on Twitter that were fake. Okay, now this doesn't make me happy. Is it funny? No, it's actually not funny. I'm not laughing because I'm funny. I'm laughing because I'm frustrated. No, I'm not actually frustrated. It's just, it is kind of annoying to see and realize, and you know, people say, oh my gosh, I'm a free agent, and it's like not even true. Like, it all kind of started with ISO. I saw a couple people tweeting out the other day, hey, I'm a free agent, but it wasn't true. Like, I'm not really sure what really makes people like enjoy that, whether they just like the favorites and the retweets that they'll get. Oh man, you'll join another team. Oh, you know, I believe this team's looking for a squad. Or I wonder if they're actually tweeting out saying free agent to see if any teams will actually reach out to them, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, that wasn't actually fake. I was totally a free agent at the time. Like, I don't understand the mindset of a pro player when they say that, because professionalism, not exactly involved. So let's take it to a real job situation. So say that I'm a player. So say I'm like in a real job situation. I'm, you know, I work for a corporation, I work for a business, and I come to my boss, and I'm like, hey boss, you know, I really enjoyed my time being with you guys, but I quit. I quit. I'm not happy here. I quit. Really? Why are you quitting? I'm just kidding. It was just a joke. I wasn't real. I was just totally messing around. Gotcha. How about you step into my office? Like, if you do that in a regular job situation, you are fired 100%. You do not joke about, you know, leaving a team, leaving an organization. I'm, you know, technically doing this as a joke. In other esports, players will, like, not keep secrets, but they won't release information and say, hey, you know, for instance, what Slack did, you know, saying, hey, you know, this is what's going to happen. Classic is actually going to join Denial. Just giving you guys the intel. Like, you don't do that. Like, this is not something that you, like, I don't know why people think that that's just a normal thing to do, because it's not normal. Like, you shouldn't do that, because I just want to see the teams release stuff. Like, I know some teams don't even have websites, but, you know, at least, like, give it something. Like, at least tell your players, you know what, if you tweet out that you are a free agent before we've released you technically, I'm going to fine you, or I'm going to do this or that. Like, it's going to happen at one point where some team takes it, like, not too far, but people won't expect it, and something bad's going to happen. Like, I don't want this to be an issue, but it's like a lack of professionalism in an esport where we're already looked at as being unprofessional. So it's really not helping. at all. And I'm not one to be like, oh, you know, you guys stop having fun, which I'm not that way at all. But when it relates to roster mania, when it relates to the roster changes and whatnot, you have to be professional about it. I would prefer if all teams did this, if all teams were like, hey, you guys aren't allowed to say anything, and if players were leaking information on MLG.TV, whatever platform it was, I don't know what I mean, but you should provide a little bit of punishment in some way. Whatever it would be, I'm not in charge of that. I wouldn't, you know, feel comfortable making that, you know, decision, because I'm obviously not in that position of power to make that happen. But still, you cannot be doing that. It just, I don't know. You guys understand my point. I'm pretty sure everyone who watches this kind of realizes where I'm coming from. Not professional at all, and I wouldn't recommend doing it. You know, for the sponsor, not at all. But moving on, we have our kind of last bit of roster mania, which actually has to do with Team Kaliber. One of the most biggest free agents out on the market right now has actually been snatched up. He's been picked up, and it's actually Apathy. TK actually announced last night that they are officially picking up Apathy as their fourth. Before I get into my own, you know, thoughts about this, their roster is now going to be Sharp, Theory, Neslo, and obviously Apathy. People were kind of tweeting on Twitter like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that this roster's back together. You know, happy seeing all these guys back on the same team again. These guys weren't all on the same team at one point. For those who are kind of curious, I believe the last event that TK had with Apathy was around like MLG Anaheim for Ghosts, like 2014 era type of time. This roster wasn't together. It's actually Gunjar, I believe, instead of Theory, or instead of Net. I think it was instead of Theory. So this team hasn't been together fully. Like, the three players have been, you know, which are Sharp, Neslo, and Apathy, but Gunjar was actually on the team instead of Theory. So unless Theory, you know, decides that he wants to leave TK and they pick up Gunjar, then it would work, and I would totally understand it, but not really a comeback team, because they haven't been on the same squad together. Enough of my, like, little nitpick stuff, but still, as far as TK goes, I'm happy about this decision. I'm really happy with the likes of who they picked up. I think Apathy's a great player at times. For those who don't know, and I kind of mentioned this in my last video, so I don't want to be, like, super repetitive or anything, but Apathy's a great player when he's around guys that he likes. When he's around the chemistry style, he does well. You know, relating back to, like I said, my last video I talked about, he was comfortable with the FaZe team that won the first event over Optic, the Columbus 25K Open. He was comfortable with that team, and he had a great event. You know, like Slasher and Censor and whatnot. That squad he was happy with. He had a chemistry with them. Same thing for TK and Ghost. While you know, TK didn't have the best success while they were there, you know, they ended up finishing like what? I believe that was like second at what was it, at X Games for Ghosts as well. So they have a little bit of success in previous titles, but everyone relates this back to, oh my gosh, and I totally agree with this. TK picks from the same group of players every single time, and they do. It's like there's Gunjar, there's out there that, you know, I mean, you have the same amount of players that you always kind of go for, and it was kind of funny in people's predictions. It was either Apathy or Gunjar that was joining the team. Like, no one else was even considering any other possibilities except for like Moch, but that was it. I honestly agree with this, you know, decision from them. If they were going to pick up anyone, you could argue different players, but I think Apathy is a solid choice for them. I like Apathy a lot. Like I said, whenever he is going off, he is one of the best players in the game. And when I've seen it happen, it's true. Like, people can't say, oh, it's not true at all, because whenever he's playing at his best, he is one of the best. And a lot of people were curious about the role switching type of ideas, like who's going to run an AR, because Nameless was their designated AR player. Now Apathy, an aggressive SMG player. How's that going to work? It's probably going to be either like Neslo kind of switching it up to maybe a Bao. Neslo is a great slayer for them recently. I believe he led in KD at DC and like S&D as well as like regular respawn. So I think it might be Neslo. If they're getting Apathy, I'm sure they already have the roles worked out. They're actually scrimming last night as well, and I kind of knew it ahead of time. Apathy changed his @ It was like kind of the basic stuff that you kind of know before a team change happens. It's like, oh, let me go check their @ Oh, they followed someone with Apathy_TK. Intel. It's like you kind of already know what's going to happen before it actually happens. So they were scrimming last night. I believe they were playing maybe a tournament or whatnot. I'm not really sure, but still happy with this new TK team. I think it's definitely an advancement forward, but we'll see what happens with Nameless, which we're actually going to talk about right now. So that's going to kind of end the actual roster mania that has happened so far. Now I'm going to talk about one thing that has actually happened with Nameless. So for those who don't know, last night in Fizzerp's stream, I believe they were playing like a 4v4 type of tournament. Like, I don't know if it was a GB or UMG. I wasn't really paying attention, but they were playing a tournament, and they were playing against Bose, Ricky, Miracles, and Nameless. So those guys are playing together. Now, are they planning on probably teaming? I'm not gonna like beat around the bush. Most likely they are. Like, they most likely are having him scrim with that team, scrimming with those players and whatnot to kind of get it down, see if it works out. If it does, which it probably will, they're gonna pick up Nameless. I just hit my mic, but still, I think Nameless is a great player. I think he's a very good AR. He's gonna kind of fill that gap of Moch being the designated Valve player. Nameless is gonna kind of take that position over, and I think it's gonna work out. I think that ON is a team based on chemistry, much like TK. And also in what TK's announcement was, I believe Kozdov responded to Aches or something like that, and he said, you know what, we're a family. We're a family, and we kind of work that way. We're an organization that works around players that we enjoy having on the team and whatnot. And I can agree with that. It's a business, but you want to have chemistry on your team. ON is kind of the same way. They want to have players that they're familiar with, that they have chemistry with. The whole reason that Bose was the captain and picked the players that he did in the beginning was because he enjoyed playing with those guys. He had played with them in the past, and he liked the chemistry that they had together. So with that, Nameless, obviously a very good friend of the ON roster, and it looks like he is going to be joining that team. Is it guaranteed? Is it for sure yet? No, it is not. So with that, that's going to kind of conclude this video for your guys' kind of roster mania update. I know it wasn't like as in-depth because it was mostly just teams announcing that their one player's dropped or two players are dropped, or that a full organization was looking for a team, so there wasn't really a whole lot of in-depthness that I could have taken for this, but hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like and let me know in the comments your guys' thoughts on this new roster. Are you happy with TK? Do you think ON could possibly pick up Nameless, and also the other changes that I mentioned, along with TCM dropping half their team, or I guess you say 3/4 of their team? Your thoughts, let me know down in the comments below. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this little bit of a roster mania update. More episodes to come soon. And before I kind of conclude this video, there is a little bit of an announcement that the ESR made last night, which I probably should have told in the beginning, but I'm going to tell it now, so it's kind of rewarding to people that watched, all the way through. But with that, Friday is technically the due date for when the rosters are due. There's going to be a 10K this weekend that if you sign up your roster for this 10K, you're basically locked in and you cannot make any more changes. However, if you're not in the 10K, you can actually email one of the people at MLG and they'll actually give you a couple days, to make your roster up. I mean, it's whatever. I think it's an okay way to do it, but there is a little bit of time left. And people are like, oh my gosh, they're not really given a whole lot of time. They've known about this tournament for a while, and people aren't necessarily going to make it easier for roster changes to happen, because it's like the reason you're making a roster change is to get better. And it's supposed to be like difficult. Like, it's not supposed to be, oh, we're gonna cater to roster changes happen. Like, no, that's not how it rolls. So with that, just letting you guys kind of know that will conclude today's video. I already said what I had to say. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, and until next time, peace out.